Identifying the sources you think you will use in your academic paper is a good first step, and placing them in a folder is a logical thing to do when you're starting out. However, you do not want to be in the position of having to go back and reread that article again and again and again. So today I will show you two different methods you can use for clipping and tagging data to pare down the amount of information you have to deal with. For purposes of this video, I'm going to use the topic of deforestation, and specifically I'm looking at the interplay between helping the economy and hurting the environment. So I have found two academic articles that might be useful. This one is 22 pages long, and this one is 17 pages long. So I only want to have to read each one time. In this article, it was all the way down on page 16 when I actually found something useful. So I want to start taking notes at this point. In the first method, all I do is create a citation, in this case MLA 8, and then I take notes as I go along. I can either cut and paste segments of the document for me to use later. Perhaps I will not quote it exactly in my document, in my paper, but I might want to have the original wording so that when I go to summarize the findings of the authors, I'll know exactly what I want to say. It's very important as you go along to identify the page numbers, because later you will need this for your citations, and you don't want to be in the position of having to go back to that article and hunt down the segment that you drew from. So in this method, you simply identify each source and you take notes as you go along, just like you would with pen and paper in the old-fashioned world. I also identify them as source 1 and source 2, etc., because later when I rearrange this data, I don't want to have to keep repeating that citation over and over again. So if I identify it as source 1, each time I take a piece of this data and put it somewhere, I will just put source 1 after it, and then I know to go back and find the citation from my original list. The second method is a little more complicated, but it's actually more efficient in the long run. In this case, what we do is we try to think about what our paper will look like, and we create subtopic sections according to how we think the structure of the paper might be. So these might be my individual paragraphs. As I'm reading along, I might find some good introductory information, and what I do is, instead of listing source 1, source 2, I take the citation along with the segment that I think I'm going to use from that paper, and I place it under the subheading. You'll see as I scroll through here that I've used the same author for several different sections, and I simply repeat this citation so that I always have it with me. This method is more useful if you have a structure in your head. It makes it very easy when you go to write your paper because all of the information is already organized. If you can't do that yet, you can just take a guess at what you think some of the key issues will be. And as you're reading along, you may identify more issues. You simply create more subtopic headings. Later, you can eliminate the ones that you think you won't use. I hope this is helpful to you, and it's a good start to launch your research process.